Hi there, this is Solitary Ronan from Solitary Ronan Films, and welcome to my favourite 25 films of the 1920s. This is the last in the series. It's been a lot of fun, and I thank everybody who has contributed and added films onto my bucket list to see. So this is the 1920s. This is a bit of a difficult one. A lot of these are one-time views that I've only really seen relatively recently. Obviously some I have seen and have been favourites for years and years. But the 20s obviously are a little bit harder to get 25 of your favourites. But again, I'm sure there's people out there who could do their 50 favourite films of the 1920s. And I'm happy to see them in the comments. So I'll just go through them. Probably won't be a lot of detail on some of them. But we'll start with 25, shall we? This is from Germany, from 1920, and it's Der Golem, directed by Paul Wegener, who also plays Der Golem and Carol Bose. And this is about a Jewish community who are oppressed by the local lord, so they create a golem, but not in the Lord of the Rings sense, a kind of stone character, as I said, played by Wegener, who can go and right their wrongs, influential perhaps as far as Frankenstein in 1931 is concerned. Beautiful sets, obviously German expressionism, and a great creature. It's only 76 minutes, doesn't need to be any longer. Excuse me. It probably could almost be a universal horror film if you dubbed it into terrible American. At 24, probably lower than most people would have it. But Buster Keaton's The General, from 1926, probably Buster Keaton's most famous film. Again, obviously I still like it, but I don't like it as much as some of his others that will probably appear in this list. Again, Keaton, I hadn't seen his films for years. I was more of a Harold Lloyd fan because Harold Lloyd was on BBC Two in the 80s a lot more than Buster Keaton was. Buster Keaton was never really on British television that much compared to Laurel and Hardy and Harold Lloyd. Same way that the Three Stooges was never really on British TV either, or the Marx Brothers, really, or that's what I remember anyway. Yeah, The General, amazing set pieces, obviously with trains. As we know, how Buster Keaton actually made it into his old age is quite remarkable, because some of the stuff is just breathtaking, but not my favourite Buster Keaton, even though, as I said, it's generally the one that's always the highest ranked, if you like. Number 23 is A Page of Madness from 1926 by Teinosuke Ginugasa, which isn't really a completed film. It was kind of rediscovered in 1971. It's about a reporter who goes into an asylum as disguised as a janitor to try and find his wife. Again, it's more of a kind of surrealist journey. There's no real narrative particularly. I mean, there's a loose skeleton of a narrative, but it's quite disturbing, quite disorientating, as I imagine life in an asylum is. At number 22, from 1924, it's Buster Keaton again with The Navigator. Again, the first half of this one perhaps isn't the best, but the second half, when it's pretty much Buster Keaton and his girl on a boat trying to repel boarders, it's absolutely sublime. And again, some of the stunt work and some of the gags are just absolutely priceless. So definitely a slow burn, but once it goes on fire, it's quite wonderful. Number 21 is Lotte Reiniger's Adventures of Prince Ahmed. This is from 1926, and it is the old-fashioned shadow puppetry. There's just something kind of magical about it, and awe-inspiring, and certainly on Blu-ray on a big screen it really works quite beautifully. Simple but effective, I believe the phrase is. That certainly sums up The Adventures of Prince Ahmed. At number 20, it's back to Buster Keaton with Our Hospitality from 1923, as feuding families, and he has to kind of stay in the house, so they can, the family that wants him dead has to show him southern hospitality, as long as he's inside the house. So again, there's lots of gags about trying to get him outside, and again, with that Buster Keaton face throughout, it's quite wonderful. And then at number 19 is Napoleon, which is not necessarily a comedy, from 1927. This is the full 332-minute version. Again, just an amazing piece of work, directed by Abel Gance. Beautifully restored, and on Blu-ray it looks just almost pristine. Again, an amazing release by the BFI, and again, this is why boutique labels do such great work, because there is a conceivable world where films like Napoleon are just lost. I mean, obviously there's plenty of films that have been lost during the 20s and other eras as well. Next up is F.W. Murnau's The Last Laugh from 1924. Just a lovely little film about fate, as an old doorman gets one last chance at success. Again, not a lot of dialogue, but you don't need it. Just beautifully shot and acted. Again, Murnau is another one of those directors that died way too early. At number 17, first entry by Fritz Lang, Dr. Mabuse, The Gambler. I think I actually prefer The Testament of Dr. Mabuse, but I didn't actually include that in my 30s list. And this is the first one. Again, a heck of an achievement, 271 minutes, but it doesn't feel like that. A really influential film, and a silent film that's actually thrilling and fast paced, which you can make the argument that perhaps not all silent films are. Up next is Pabst. It's Pabst's turn. Pandora's Box with Louise Brooks. I had never seen this before until Eureka MOC released it, and I was blown away by it. I did a random review. It's an absolutely beautiful film, a great central performance by Louise Brooks. Again, another excellent restoration by Eureka, and yeah, really surprisingly good. I didn't actually think it was going to be that good, but it is. Then number 15, it's Conrad Veidt in the Hands of Orlac by Robert Weiner from 1924. Obviously I'm biased because it's Veidt, and I love myself some Conrad Veidt. Again, this is Eureka MOC, who probably are the best at silent films. This is a commentary by Stephen Jones and Kim Newman, a video essay by David Cairns and Fiona Watson. There's an alternate presentation which runs 110 minutes compared to this version that runs at 93, so you basically get two versions of the film as well. We all know the story. Piano player has an accident, loses his hands, and gets the hands of a murderer. It's always the way. The NHS should really do better. At number 14, it's Fritz Lang again with Metropolis. Again, this is 150 minutes. Again, another film, it's 1927, that was kind of cut and lost and had to be reconstructed. Seminal work of science fiction. Then at number 13, a lovely little film called Haxon from 1922, about the history of witchcraft. Just beautiful, tinted little film, still with some disturbing imagery. And it's rather impressive that films from this period of time can still give some chilling moments and disturbing imagery. I've just realised this is 102 years old. Incredible. Number 12, it's the iconic Safety Last. I mean, this is just an indelible image of Harold Lloyd hanging off a clock from 1923. And this Criterion is absolutely stuffed with extras, including Harold Lloyd, the Third Genius, a 108-minute documentary from 1989, and 3 newly restored Lloyd shorts, Take a Chance from 1918, Young Mr. Jazz from 1919, and His Royal Slyness from 1920. And they have commentaries as well. Absolutely iconic. At number 11, we're back to Buster Keaton in Steamboat Bill Jr. Again, this is just a beautiful little film with gentle gags. There's a wonderful one in the hat shop. He's trying to pick a hat. But the last 15 minutes or so, when the storm hits, is just mind-blowing. How they did it without getting people killed, specifically Buster Keaton. When the storm hits, every time I watch it, it's just, I'm agog. I'm agog every time I watch the storm hitting in Steamboat Bill Jr. It's just awe-inspiring how they did that. Incredible. We're in the top 10. So at 10, from 1924, it's Fritz Lang again, and The Nibelungen, which it took me years and years and years to actually watch. And Nazrin Prod kept shouting at me to watch it, and I eventually did. It is 282 minutes, split into 2 parts, but again, it doesn't seem that long when you actually watch it. I preferred the first half to the second half, but it's just a ridiculous achievement. Again, it involved burning down studios and stuff like that. That's 1924 Germany for you. Yeah, just an incredible journey. And as far as kind of fantasy adventures, way better than Lord of the Rings, but that's just me. At number 9, Dreyer's Passion of Joan of Arc, from 1928. I mean, I think I prefer Bresson's Joan of Arc, but this is still pretty phenomenal, from Dreyer. At number 8, from 1920, that was a good guess. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. I know this will possibly be featuring on a podcast coming up soon on Ronan Nazarin Talks. This is the 4K by Eureka MOC, directed by Robert Viner. Obviously I'm biased because it's Conrad Veidt. Yeah, heavily influential from the look. German Expressionism gone mad. Bit like a fever dream, but just a lot of fun. Number 7 is Murnau's Nosferatu. Again, heavily influential. Beautiful tints, and the print on this is ridiculously nice. From 1922. Don't need to talk too much about Nosferatu. At number 6 is not L'Âge d'Or, which was 1930. It's Un Chien Andalou, which is only 16 minutes long, but it's still jaw-droppingly good. From 1929, it's still provocative. It's still not necessarily controversial, but it's still disturbing. And it's just an amazing piece of work, arguably the greatest short film of all time. Just phenomenal. So at number 5 is von Sternberg's The Last Command with Emil Jannings, from 1928. Obviously you have to separate Jannings, the actor, from the actual person, because he was a bit of a scumbag. But this gives an amazing performance as he flashes back to when he actually was in a command, as opposed to being a Hollywood extra. It is a great performance, and it's a beautiful little film at 88 minutes. Well worth seeing if you haven't already. Number 4, possibly should be higher really, from Sweden, directed by the lead in Wild Strawberries, which I believe was my film of the 50s, my favourite film of the 50s. This is The Phantom Carriage, starring and directed by Victor Sjöström. Talking about a film that blew me away, this one certainly blew me away, from 1921. 106 minutes. It's about a wastrel played by Sjöström, who has pretty much abandoned his family, and on New Year's Eve, Death hires a new person to drive his phantom carriage, and picks Sjöström. It's basically a Christmas Carol, but Swedish and awesome. Again, the effects are, by today's standards, rudimentary, but they still work because there's just something spectral about them and something ethereal about them. And again, for a film that's 103 years old, it's just an absolute stunner. Again, one of those films that just kind of blew me away. Number 3 he said, hopefully whipping out the Buster Keaton one again. I shouldn't have put it away, but I did put it away. It's Sherlock Jr. From 1924. This is about cinema itself, as Keaton plays a projectionist who also fancies himself as an amateur sleuth. Again, wonderful stuff, including Keaton literally going into the frame, joining the film in the cinema. Narratively, you could make the argument it's his tightest. Again, just an absolute joy. Seeing them years later, I do have to kind of agree with Nazan Prod that he's probably the best out of that era of comedy. At number 2, yes, I'm biased, but 1928, it's Conrad Veidt again in The Man Who Laughs, directed by Paul Lenny. Again, another director that died way too young. He died age 49, I believe, because of a tooth. So go to the dentist, folks, because were Carol Lemony, Universal Productions, Universal Studios, the horror films, there would have possibly been the chance that Paul Lenny would have done Dracula with Conrad Veidt. I mean, I hope there's an alternate universe where in 1931 Paul Lenny's Dracula with Conrad Veidt as Dracula exists, because that would have been amazing. It's 110 minutes. It's basically the story of a small boy, and this actually was a true thing where carnival gypsy families would actually have the surgery to make their kids have permanent smiles. It is creepy as anything, based on a story by Victor Hugo. It's pretty much the Joker. You can't see the Joker after seeing this film. It's fairly obvious that that's where the Joker got his... I mean, look at that. Eureka MOC released this in a time before I spent a bit of money on the Flicker Alley edition, but for an 110 minute film, it actually stands up really well for a silent film. Yeah, there's some lulls in it, but obviously I love Conrad Veidt, and this is just a brilliant performance considering half of his face is in one expression for the majority of the film. But my number one, my favourite film of the 1920s, it's Germany again, from 1926, and it's Murnau again, and it's Faust. My favourite version of Faust, this is 107 minutes, and literally the first, 20-25 minutes is absolutely stunning. I mean, from a visual perspective, it is just eye-poppingly good. It's almost at Bondarchuk's War and Peace levels of just gorgeosity. Not that it falls away after the first 20-25 minutes, but the first 20-25 minutes grabs you by the eyeballs and drags you along. It's just an absolutely stunning film. Arguably my favourite, Murnau, because no, it's not Sunrise. Yeah, I mean, if you have any proof, if proof be need be, that cinema is a visual medium, put on Faust by Murnau, because it's just absolutely stunning. Images that you'll never forget. And again, another Eureka MOC, because as I said earlier, Eureka MOC just are head and shoulders above anybody else doing silent films. Just a beautiful print, and again, watch it on as a bigger screen as possible because it's pure eye candy. And obviously the Faust Tale is just one of the great stories in literature. So thanks very much for watching. I apologise for not a lot of detail in these films, because as I said, some of them I've only seen once, which is appalling. I need to sort my life out. So thanks very much for watching. Please let me know what your favourite 25 films in the 1920s, or even your top 5. Or your favourite 55. And thanks very much for watching this series. I will be starting another one that's a little bit similar. So yeah, I look forward to reading your contributions, and I've enjoyed reading your contributions for all the other decades. I won't be doing one for the 1910s, because I don't have that many from the 1910s. I apologise deeply to our fans of the 1910s cinema. I'll try and do better in the future. So this is Saoirse Ronan from Saoirse Ronan Films, saying farewell.